In this assignment, we are going to learn to make a glowing edges image like the one you see here. I'm going to take you through each of the steps in order to complete this file. Start by making a new file by going to File and then New. Your screen may appear slightly different, but you can still enter these same variables. The width is going to be 640 pixels, with the height being 480 pixels, 300 on the resolution on the pixels per inch in RGB color 8-bit. The background contents will be black. You may have to choose the color picker and select the black on your menu. Click Create. Zoom in if needed. The next step will be to add an image of an action figure on top of this. You can choose any one you like. I did provide an image, however, on Edmodo of a soccer player, which you can use. I'm going to insert it now. What you would want to do is save that to your computer and then follow these prompts. File, place embedded. You would open your file browser, grab the image. Again, mine may be slightly different. Alright, once you have placed your file, you're going to check on the Commit Transform control at the top. Select your magic wand. Since this image has a solid white background, it should be fairly easy to remove. Simply click and hit delete. If you notice at this point in time it's letting me know that the object is not editable, that is because it is a smart object. We need to right click on the layer, select rasterize layer. Now click delete on your keyboard. The item should easily be removed. The next step is going to be to add a new layer. Title this layer color. Go to your color picker and choose two colors. You can choose whatever colors you want as long as the top color is going to be lighter and the bottom color will be darker. I'm going to use this blue for the foreground color and a darker blue for the background. We will now select the gradient tool, making sure that we have the linear gradient selected. Make sure you have foreground to background selected here and click OK. Drag a gradient over the top of your image. Go to the layers blending options and choose color. This will add a slight overlay on the action figure. Add another new layer at this time. Title this layer highlight. This layer will appear behind the soccer player, so drag him down in your layers stacking if needed. We are going to, at this point in time, reverse the foreground and background colors here in your color picker so that we are working primarily with the dark color. We're going to select the radial gradient, which is the second box here. Click, and we're going to do foreground to transparent. Since, as you can see, this wants to make a radial gradient, it will actually fill out beyond where you click. I'm going to click from the center and drag out. You'll now notice the blue highlight appear around the man. I'm going to add another new layer. This layer will be titled Clouds 1. We're going to go to Filter, Render, Clouds. This has covered most of our image, so now we're going to change the blending mode to Soft Light. This diffuses the background. Right click the layer, duplicate the layer, and title it Clouds 2. Alright, at this point in time we want to add some of our circles in. So we're going to go ahead and click on our shape tool. You can do that by clicking U on your keyboard. You will then choose the ellipse tool, add your new layer in, call this layer circles 1. The fill should be set to white, the stroke to no stroke. Holding your shift key and not pressing any other buttons between adding additional circles, you will want to press shift, click and drag, continue clicking and dragging, until you get a variety of circles. Once you have those circles, click on your Move tool to deselect and duplicate the layer. Name this layer Circles 2. Holding your Shift key, drag your transform controls and click your Transform Commit Transform. You'll want to get a total of 6 of these layers. We're going to start with this first one and reduce the opacity. Continue to reduce the opacity each time. Let's duplicate this layer again. This will be Circles 3. Holding my Shift key, I am transforming the circles once again. Duplicate the layer again. Again, move it where you'd like it. Transform if necessary. Rotate. And reduce the opacity each time. Click your Commit Transform. Reduce the opacity. And we're almost to our last layer now. This will be Circle 6, which is going to be our final layer of circles. Again, reducing the opacity each time. Holding my Shift key while using the Transform controls. If you do not have the Transform controls, they're easily available at Edit, Transform, Free Transform. Alright, at this point in time, we're going to add a new layer. This layer will be titled Warp 1. We're going to go to our Shape tool, and this time we're going to select Custom Shape tool. Up at the top, the fill will be white, no stroke, and we will select Tile 2 in the Shape box. Once you've selected that, simply take your cursor, drag a selection of lines, click on your Move tool to commit the transform, Edit, Transform, Warp. Grabbing on the handles, find a selection that works for you. It doesn't need to look exactly like mine. We're then going to go to the Layer FX button and create an outer glow. Again, choose the variables that you like best. For this, I've chosen color FFFFBE in the hexadecimal color picker. I've chosen a blending mode of normal at an opacity of 75%, noise being 31, and the technique here being color to transparent. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead, right click, and duplicate the layer. We're going to call this layer Warp 2. If you just simply select your move tool, you're going to notice that you now have a second selection of custom lines. We're going to do the same thing as before, where we're going to go into Edit, Transform, and Warp. Click your Commit Transform to commit the transformation. If you feel like it needs to be smaller, Edit, Transform, Free Transform. You can rotate the image here as well. I'm just simply rotating these edges. Once you see the handles turn into the curved handle, that lets you know that it is prepared to rotate. Click on my Transform Commit, and I'm going to reduce the opacity. On this particular layer, I've reduced it to 64%. Again, choose the variables that you like best. I'm going to go back to my Warp 1. I'd like to reduce the opacity on this just a little bit. Adjust accordingly between each layer. Alright, the next step, we're going to go to our action figure layer. We're going to right click it. We're going to duplicate this layer. We're going to call this glowing figure. We now have a soccer player and a soccer player in action. I'm going to go ahead and go to Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and I'm going to bring the lightness all the way up. Click on OK. Next, we will go ahead and add a layer style here. We're going to choose Outer Glow. I'm using the same color, the FFFFBE in my hexadecimal color picker, which is a light lime green. However, in this case, I'm going to reduce the noise and increase the size. You'll notice as I increase the size, you should see a glow appear on the edges. We want it to be rather faint. With a small spread. Click OK. You should now notice that your white figure is over the top of your action figure. Simply drag the glowing figure below. You will now see this highlighted line appear around the man. Let's add a new layer. We're going to do this layer below the glowing figure, and we will title it Tiny Bubbles. We're going to select our paintbrush tool. From our menu bar at the top, we have gone through and selected brush number 59, which is the Spatter 59 pixel brush. We're going to set the color to white. In your hexadecimal color picker, that would be color FFFFFF is solid white. Once we have that, we want to make sure the mode is normal, opacity is 100%. Let me zoom in. And if necessary, you may need to reduce the size of your brush, which I'm finding necessary in this case. You want just a small glowing effect that we're going to add around the exterior of the image. Again, each color will look slightly different. I'm clicking each time and releasing. Do not click and drag, it will not create a good effect. All right, now that I have this, let's look at my example image and see what effects we are missing. All right, it looks pretty good. You may want to go in and grab your brush tool, selecting the hard round brush, selecting a very small pixel size, and adding some additional smaller bubbles in. All right, this completes the image. If you'd like, go back in and add an outer glow around each one of your circle layers. This can add a greater effect. Again, I'm using the same color as before, the FFFBE, and you can add just a slight outer glow around each of the circles. Once you have all of this completed, press Control, Alt, Shift, and E on your keyboard, which will result in the creation of a layer that composes a snapshot of your screen. I'm going to do it here by using my Select All, Edit, Copy, Special, Copy Merged, add a new layer, Edit, Paste. If you now notice this layer right here, I will drag to the very top of my screen.
Joe Mabry, please come to the front office. Joe Mabry, please come to the front office.
All right, right click on the layer, Export As, choose JPEG from your file options, Export All. Save the file to your desktop and upload the image via Edmodo in the Turn in Submissions box when you're complete. That completes this file.